Have you ever heard these words in your life? Highly gifted, special, unique. Whether it was your elementary school teacher or your doting aunt saying that you were the brightest child they ever knew, those words probably stuck with you for a while. At least until you failed your first test. Or maybe you got surpassed in a race. From there were two ways your life could have played out. If you let that realization hit you like a truck, then there was a good chance that your motivation died on the spot. You would have stopped trying in many aspects of life, thinking, well, what's the point of trying if he or she is going to be better than me? This is something that I think too many teenagers, especially Asian teenagers my age, go through. And in hindsight, it's extremely toxic and unhealthy. The most common example, I think, is with regards to college admissions. I know people that have staked their entire reputation on getting into a certain college, and those are the same people that see community college as not as a means of saving tens of thousands of dollars, but as a last resort for hoodlums and delinquents. It doesn't sound pretty, but that's a realistic perspective these days. Some of the parents I know even go out of their way to paint this image for their children, just so that when their child gets accepted into an Ivy League, they can go ahead and brag about them in their group chats. I'm thankful that my own parents didn't try to push any ideals or concepts like this on me, but I can say that even associating with my peers whose parents do this type of stuff initially corrupted my idea of a successful high school career, which led me to have false expectations about where I was going in life. Now, if your motivation didn't crumble from the realization that you were just an average Joe in a sea of average Joes, then congratulations. You tried even harder, attempting to grow and give the world a reason to call you unique. In doing so, you probably learned more, met more people, and did more good for the world. A gifted person is useless if you don't act on the fact that you're gifted. And if you did, then you were a minority. And it didn't matter where you started or where you were, but it was where you ended up that counted the most. Which brings me to my main point. I think that parents should be brutally honest with their kids as early as possible. Children should not be an outlet for their parents' inferiority complexes. And yes, I know that as a parent, your goal is to motivate your child and show them that you care about the things they do. But minor changes in phrasing can actually make a huge difference. Instead of mindlessly uplifting them or explicitly downplaying their efforts, you can instead strive to let them know that being the best at something isn't all that special. Sure, you can strive for it, but just because you are the best at something doesn't really mean anything. Imposter syndrome is something that everybody goes through, and even though it can be tough to get through, it shouldn't stop you from trying even harder at what you're doing. I'm going to go over a couple bad habits and side effects that can stem from this gifted child mindset. And while I'm sure a good number of you might be familiar with the things I'm about to describe, bear with me. Because even if you do acknowledge what I say, there's a good chance that you will make some of these same mistakes, even if you recognize their unhealthy nature. Keep in mind that this is less of a science-based analysis and more of an anecdotal exploration into a hot take I found on Reddit. Enjoy. Don't compare yourself to other people. People are not video game characters. In all seriousness, we are not rigid, static characters defined by maxing out certain stats in life. There's no basis for comparison between human beings, and yet we always try to do so in an attempt to gauge our societal standing in a hierarchy of incomprehensible size. Again, I believe this is something that is more prevalent in Asian households when compared to households of other ethnicities. I've heard too many stories where parents throw around passive aggressive remarks to their children, like, did you hear that Mark got into Harvard? All he does is some of this and this. By painting the narrative that someone who's successful isn't that far off from the child's current state, that child will then be set on achieving what someone else has already done instead of going for what they themselves are singularly capable of. They'll constantly be checking to see how far they are from that stellar figure, while at the same time seeing how far off their peers are from accomplishing the similar goal. Like it or not, there's a 99% chance we're all guilty of that act of comparison. Bottom line is, if you have to compare yourself with someone, compare yourself to your past self. It's that simple. Praise should not be used as a primary source of motivation. Oftentimes, praise is immediate and short lived. It might make you feel good temporarily, but it doesn't necessarily contribute to our long term development. Pursuing activity solely for the praise we receive can lead to a focus on instant gratification, rather than the passion and commitment needed for sustained growth and improvement. In a sense, I think praise can be a drug like any other. An addiction to praise is a real thing. If one's main goal is to receive it, we might avoid taking risks or trying new things out of fear of not meeting the expectations that come with it. This praise-oriented motivation can stifle creativity and innovation, keeping us confined to our comfort zones and hindering our growth. That's why I believe that the best thing parents can do is to teach their children how to search for a genuine sense of self-motivation. That's really the key I found to learning anything, even in adulthood. We should be taught to chase results for what they are, not the results of others. And this isn't to say we can't be inspired by other people, but I just want to acknowledge that being unique and destined for greatness can have a variety of meaning. That's up to us to decide over the course of our lives. I think that this is something that is glossed over but not really properly elaborated on. The basic assumption of a carelessly strict parent or a carelessly doting parent goes something like this. I'm doing it for their own good. I don't care if they hate me or if they love me, because in the end, they'll be in a good spot thanks to my parenting. I'm pushing them to be the best they possibly can. I'm going to try to keep an open mind here while running through the possibilities. Sure, if all goes well, then all goes well, and the child goes on to become an adult who holds hands with their families and sings Kumbaya at family reunions. But if the person someone trusts most, that person being their parent, tells them all their life that they can be something and will be something, only for that child to fall short of their idea of perfection, then the child will feel like they've wasted their time. And to someone young like me, 18 years is a lot of time. This can lead to feelings of discontent, confusion, or even worse, self-hatred or hatred directed towards a parent. Up until now, I've only used anecdotal references and personal experiences, logical reasoning to back up my point. Here is the dark truth behind excessive praise and unrealistic expectations. Trigger warning, suicide. I live in the Bay Area, and I don't mean to brag when I say that we as a collective take college admissions very seriously. At least most of us do. This quote is taken directly from the San Francisco Examiner. Growing up, my dream college was Stanford because I was so used to repeating that, "Oh, I want to go to Stanford" statement, says Lisa Howe, a Gunn High School alum and one of the students featured in the documentary. Then you enter high school and the reality sets in. This next excerpt is from the Washington Post. Over the course of 9 months in 2009 and 2010, 6 Palo Alto teenagers committed suicide. Between 2010 and 2014, an average of 20 children and young adults kill themselves annually in Santa Clara County, where Palo Alto is located. Further down the same article, you can find another similar case. In November 2014, the CDC conducted similar research in Fairfax, Virginia, and found multiple risk factors, including high expectations for students, parental pressure on students for success, and parental denial of mental health issues among their children. It found that 72% of youth suicides exhibited mental health problems. I'll link the complete CDC study in the description below. Point is, the correlation is there, but it's commonplace for both parents and students to deny and repress emotions in order to focus on the greater outcome. Still, it's impossible to ignore the fundamental fact that we as human beings are emotional, and it's important to address that fact as soon as we can. The sooner we can accept reality for what it is, the sooner we can learn to overcome those rapid and unforgiving currents of life. Otherwise, we open up doors to much more undesirable outcomes. I wanted to make this video because as an incoming college student watching the next wave of high school seniors go through college applications, I can't help but think of my own experience and how I watched my peers react to their own college decisions. Some of my peers are stepping on foot into their dream schools as I record this video, and I'm happy for them. But I also know people that can't get over that feeling of dissatisfaction with themselves, that feeling that they could have amounted to more and got into better places. And I know that parental influence isn't the sole factor behind that mindset. Nevertheless, it can still have an impact that shouldn't be ignored at all. Which is why I say, parents, be real as with your children. Reassure them that prestige is just a social construct and that success is different based on person to person. Statistically, you won't land a six-figure job out of college or be an Olympian athlete, but you will be independent and learn to discover the world for yourself instead of having it handed to you on a silver platter. And that, in itself, is priceless. If you liked what you saw, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps a lot, and as I enter college, I want to make more of this content and talk to my professors and other peers to find out more about current issues that are happening in our world. If you have an issue that you'd like to see me cover, please drop it down in the comments below, and if I think I can tackle it, I'll look to see if I can make a video on it. Cheers.